Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Reid from Rhode Island is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I want to join the chairman in recognizing the skill and the insights and the preparation of Dr. Omarova. She's qualified for this position. I, too, am disturbed by the personal attacks. They're a diversion, really, from the issues that we have to raise, and I hope we can raise here because they're serious. Dr. Omarova has seen the banking system from about every angle you can think of, from a prestigious New York City law firm in which I assume, Doctor, you represented banks. Is that correct?
Yes, we have represented some of the biggest financial institutions.
Yes, and they were, I'm sure, very pleased with your representation on their behalf.
I believe so.
Yeah. And then also with the George W. Bush administration, and I don't think, I don't know former President Bush that well, but I don't think he was in a habit of appointing Marxist, socialist, Leninists to public office. So that, I think, is another aspect of this. And just a comment, I think I'll commend the ranking member. I think his comments and his questions are very insightful. But one of the things I think the bank industry does with regularity is if they don't like provisions in a particular regulator, they change their charters. There are so many community banks that are state chartered that are not governed by the Comptroller currency, and has also indicated, too, any type of significant change would require statutory, would require this Congress to agree. The articles that have been discussed, and you've, I think, tried to put them in context, is we face a extraordinary shift with respect to digital currencies, with respect to all of these factors. And there is a possibility, because they're virtually unregulated now, that private companies unrelated to the Federal Reserve could start essentially setting our monetary policy. Is that the context of your academic pursuit?
Yes, Senator, you are absolutely correct. This is exactly the context for my academic pursuits, particularly with respect to the digital currency and potential options we or Congress might take in this direction. My concern is that digitization of the dollar would give an inherent and inerodable structural advantage to large players like Facebook and other big tech companies. So whether or not community banks survive depends on what you, senators, decide to do to protect them. My academic work was driven purely by the desire to give you a greater range of options, potential alternatives to consider. Like I said, I do not presume that any of the proposals I've made is the only proposal or the best proposal you should consider.
Now, we are in the midst of the revelations about Facebook's operating procedures, et cetera. And it's quite possible, given the current context of laws, not just in the United States, but internationally, that Facebook basically could design a digital currency, could operate to the extent that it's so much in use. In fact, I think Tesla for a while was experimenting with using digital currency to buy cars, that the U.S. dollar becomes something that can't be used to regulate our economy. And also, by the way, national banks and local banks would essentially say, I don't need a federal charter. I just have to get a franchise in Facebook. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. This is the scary scenario that I think everybody should take seriously these days.
The irony here is, we face this same dilemma with respect to social media, et cetera, going back 10, 15 years. And this Congress really wasn't provoked to think through it. We just sort of sat there and give, here, whatever you want, take it. And guess what? They've taken it. And now we're facing this crisis, actually, institutional democratic crisis of what controls must we put on these algorithms, et cetera. And if we lose the power, and I think this is why you want to get us to think hard, if the Federal Reserve loses the monetary power to regulate this economy, then we are in very difficult circumstances.
Thank you, Senator. I think you've summarized my work probably better than I did. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Reed. Senator Shelby from Alabama.